Listen to that. Every second you are running out of time, or are you just running in a circle? Tonight we explore the two greatest psychological prisons of human history: the sudden, violent end of the apocalypse and the endless, suffocating loop of samsara.
It really is the ultimate trap.
It is. And, I have been staring at the research for today's deep dive for, hours. And to be completely honest with you, it has left me with this overwhelming physical sense of dread.
Yeah, it's heavy, really heavy.
It is. So, listener, there is no welcoming banter today. There is no cheerful setup where we ask how our weekends were. We are looking at a single, incredibly dark piece of source text today that deconstructs time itself as the ultimate psychological prison.
Right. And our mission here is to confront you with the visceral, unavoidable reality of how these ancient mythologies of time are actually governing your modern daily anxieties.
Exactly. We are going to strip away the comforting illusions you've built, around your productivity, your schedules, your daily routines, and we are going to expose the cages that we are all currently living in right now.
It's a profoundly unsettling reality to confront, honestly, because we operate under this assumption that time is just an objective physical constant, like just the ticking of a clock.
Right, just a measurement.
Yeah, exactly. But the way we experience time, the way it actually makes us feel in our bodies, is entirely a deeply ingrained mythological construct.
Mm-hmm.
We are trapped inside geometries of time that were drawn thousands of years ago, and we just cannot escape them.
And that geometry is, that's exactly where we need to start, because the first cage is the one that is currently making my heart race just thinking about it. We have to talk about the straight line.
The Western perspective.
Right. In the Western biblical tradition, the geometry of time is completely linear. It's a straight, unyielding line that has a definitive beginning and is heading directly toward an absolute catastrophic end: the apocalypse. Judgment Day.
The sudden end of everything.
Yes. And there is a direct, terrifying parallel between that ancient theology and the way you and I live right now. This straight line is the absolute root of the psychological horror of time running out. It is the core mechanism behind FOMO, the fear of missing out, and this relentless modern obsession with hustle culture.
Yeah, because the geometry of the line dictates progress. But more importantly, it dictates finality.
Finality, right.
In the Western mind, every second that passes is a unit of currency you never get back. It is gone forever, burned up on this trajectory toward an inevitable endpoint. But we really have to understand how we got here. Because before the 14th century, humans largely experienced time through natural rhythms.
Like the sunrise, the seasons.
Exactly, the harvest. It was fluid. The inflection point, the moment it all changed, was the invention of the mechanical clock, which was ironically created by monks to strictly schedule their prayers.
Wow. So they took something infinite and fluid and they just carved it up into depleting, measurable units. Right. They created artificial scarcity. Once time could be counted in mechanical seconds, well, it could be wasted.
God, that's terrifying.
And that is when the psychological weight of the apocalypse shifted. It went from a distant, cosmic event into a daily, personal terror. The secularization of society over the centuries didn't erase the anxiety of Judgment Day. It merely internalized it.
It's like a secular rebrand of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And, the modern version is terrifying in a completely different way.
Yeah.
Because instead of fearing the fiery wrath of God at the end of days, we are now living with this crushing, suffocating anxiety that you are going to die before achieving greatness.
Yes, that you'll run out of runway.
Exactly. That you will reach the end of your personal timeline and you won't have done enough or built enough or been enough. It's this frantic, breathless panic. And you feel it, right? Listener, you feel it. I feel it every single day.
Constant pressure. The pressure to optimize your morning routine, to monetize your hobbies, to constantly be leveling up. Productivity apps aren't tools. They are doomsday clocks counting down your relevance. If I'm not moving forward on the line, I feel like I'm failing.
And that is the fear of sudden cessation. Conceptually, the apocalypse is a violent, abrupt end to the narrative. So when you apply that mythology to an individual life, especially into the framework of modern capitalism and hustle culture, the anxiety stems from the idea that the curtain could fall at literally any moment.
At any second.
Right. And your performance will be judged by society, by your peers, by your own internalized critic as incomplete. And this triggers a literal physiological response in your body.
Physical reaction.
Yeah, the brain perceives the end of the line as a physical threat. It floods your system with cortisol. You're living in a state of perpetual low-grade fight or flight.
Okay, let's make that abstract feeling incredibly concrete, because I really need you, the listener, to feel the dread of this specific mindset. Think about lying awake at 2 a.m., just staring at your phone, scrolling through LinkedIn or Instagram.
Oh, the worst time to scroll.
The absolute worst. And you're seeing everyone else seemingly miles ahead of you on their own lines. Hustle culture is constantly sold to us as ambition, right? It's framed as passion and drive and grinding for your dreams. But looking at the architecture of this concept from our source text, that is a complete lie.
A total fabrication.
Yeah, hustle culture is not ambition. Hustle culture is apocalyptic panic dressed up in a business suit.
It's a trauma response, literally a trauma response to the ticking clock.
Exactly. Just imagine you were on a treadmill and you are sprinting. You have it cranked up to the absolute maximum speed. Your lungs are just burning, your legs are cramping, but you cannot hit the stop button because outside the window of the gym, the sky is literally burning.
The world is ending.
The world is ending. The fire is creeping closer. And you somehow believe that if you just run fast enough, if you just answer one more email in the middle of the night, if you just launch one more side hustle, you can outrun the sudden violent end.
What you can't.
No. You're racing against an apocalypse that is happening entirely inside your own head.
That treadmill analogy, it perfectly captures the futility of it. Because you are expending maximum energy entirely driven by terror, yet you are fundamentally stationary. You aren't actually going anywhere.
You're just spinning the belt.
Right. And the deepest tragedy of the straight line mythology is the illusion of the finish line. We tell ourselves that if we just reach a certain tax bracket or, a certain job title, we will cross a victory tape and finally be able to rest.
We'll finally be safe.
But on a linear timeline, the finish line is not a victory lap. The finish line is just a cliff. It is the sudden drop into absolute nothingness.
Wow.
The psychological horror here is that the faster you run to achieve greatness before the end, the faster you blur the very life you are trying to validate.
You blur it all. It's just a sheer, unadulterated exhaustion. You are constantly measuring your position on a line that is simultaneously vanishing behind you and collapsing in front of you.
It's a terrifying geometry.
It really is. It's like, oh, I'm 30, I haven't bought a house. I'm 40, I haven't made a meaningful impact on the world. It makes me feel completely breathless. It makes me feel like I am drowning in the pressure of my own supposed potential. I look at my calendar and it feels like a weapon.
It's completely unsustainable.
I can't keep running toward the end of the line. The panic of it is breaking me. I feel like I just need to get off the treadmill.
I hear that. I really do. But escaping the timeline doesn't grant you liberation. It just drops you into a completely different kind of prison.
Oh, God, really?
Yeah. And honestly, it is one that feels infinitely heavier. Because if the Western tradition is the frantic straight line of the apocalypse, the Eastern Buddhist tradition presents the geometry of the circle. This is samsara.
Wait, hold on. I need to process this because my brain is still literally vibrating from the panic of the straight line. If you're telling me the line is replaced by a circle, shouldn't that be a massive relief?
You would think so, right?
Yeah, I mean, a loop implies you get another chance. If there is no sudden fiery end of the world, if there's no apocalyptic deadline where I fall off a cliff, the absolute guarantee of a tomorrow sounds like salvation. You don't have to outrun the fire if the track just loops back around.
That assumes the loop contains joy, or at the very least, novelty. But we have to look closely at the architecture of modern samsara. In ancient Eastern thought, samsara isn't just rebirth. It is an endless, inescapable cycle of repeating actions driven by attachment, which fundamentally results in suffering.
Endless repetition.
Endless. The horror of the circle is not the fire of Judgment Day. The horror of the circle is waking up in a gray, windowless room where the clock never strikes midnight and absolutely nothing ever changes.
Oh, wow. That's bleak.
Because peace implies rest. The circle offers no rest. It only offers repetition.
So the panic of the treadmill is replaced by what? Sensory deprivation?
Basically, yeah. It is the psychological equivalent of the rat race and burnout. Just imagine the precise, mundane reality of it. You wake up, you drag yourself out of bed to the sound of the exact same alarm tone.
I can hear it in my head.
You commute through the exact same traffic to a job that you actively hate, a job that slowly drains your spirit. You trade the majority of your waking hours for a wage that barely covers the cost of your basic existence. You come home, you pay your bills, you stare at a screen to numb the exhaustion, and you go to sleep.
And then
the wheel turns. You wake up to do it again and again, forever.
You're just describing the absolute baseline of modern adulthood.
And that is the trap. You aren't running out of time, like you feared on the straight line.
Yeah.
You actually have an abundance of time, but you are trapped in a meaningless, infinite loop.
It's suffocating.
To understand why this is so devastating, we have to look at the neurology of it. Human motivation is heavily reliant on dopamine. And dopamine isn't just about pleasure. It is driven by the anticipation of a novel reward.
So when the brain anticipates something new and good, it gives you the energy to actually pursue it.
Precisely. But when you are trapped in the modern samsara, the rat race, your brain eventually recognizes the pattern. It realizes that no matter how hard you push the wheel, there is no novel reward coming.
The paycheck just goes straight to the landlord.
Right. The emails just generate more emails. The commute always leads to the same cubicle. When the brain registers that the loop is infinite and unchanging, the dopamine flatlines.
Wow.
That neurochemical crash is the biological mechanism of burnout. Burnout is not the result of running too fast on the straight line. Burnout is the profound spiritual exhaustion of realizing that the scenery will never, ever change.
It's the myth of Sisyphus, but with a daily commute. You are pushing a boulder up a hill, only to watch it roll back down, knowing you have to push it up again tomorrow. So while the straight line is the terror of the sudden drop, the circle is the terror of the eternal flatline.
Yes, the eternal flatline.
It's that feeling of looking at your calendar and realizing that next week looks exactly like this week, and next year will look exactly like this year.
It is a suffocating, crushing weight. When you exist in the psychological prison of the modern rat race, the future is no longer a canvas of possibility. It becomes a threat of endless repetition. The heavy, drained exhaustion you feel during burnout is your mind comprehending the vast, empty geometry of samsara.
It's just so heavy.
It is the realization that your suffering is mundane, unremarkable, and seemingly without end.
It's the difference between dying of a heart attack while sprinting and slowly drowning in a lukewarm bath. I really don't know which is worse. They're both absolute nightmares. But it strips away all the romanticism we try to apply to the concept of, endurance.
Right, the daily grind.
Yeah. We tell ourselves we are enduring the daily grind for some future payoff. We think we're building a foundation. But the reality of the circle is that the grind isn't leading anywhere. The grind is the entirety of the existence.
And a guarantee of tomorrow is a curse. If tomorrow is identical to the pain of today, the fear of waking up to the exact same day for eternity is a paralyzing dread. It saps the color from the world.
It makes everything feel pointless.
It makes every action feel entirely hollow because every action has already been performed and will be performed again. But here's the thing. There is a deeply unsettling historical inflection point that brought us here, merging these two fears into one modern reality.
Wait, merging them. You're saying we don't just pick one cage or the other?
No, we don't. Think about the Industrial Revolution, and specifically the standardization of the 8-hour workday in the early 20th century. Factory owners and corporate architects essentially engineered a system that harnesses the terrors of both the line and the circle.
Okay, let's look at the bigger picture here, because this is where all these threads just come crashing together into this awful existential climax. We have these two distinct contrasting mythologies. The fast-paced, breathless panic of the West, the straight line, the hustle, the apocalypse.
Right.
And then we have the slow, agonizing, heavy trap of the East. The circle, the rat race, burnout, samsara.
They represent the ultimate duality of human fear regarding time. We are either terrified of the sudden end of our world, or we are terrified that our suffering will never end.
And what you're saying is that modern capitalism looked at both of those ancient psychological horrors and decided to use them both at the exact same time.
It is deeply disturbing, but yes,
Yeah.
we are a society that demands the frantic, apocalyptic sprint of hustle culture while simultaneously trapping us within the endless, repetitive loop of the economic rat race.
Oh my God.
Think about the modern corporate worker. You are given impossible quarterly deadlines, constant performance reviews, and the looming threat of layoffs. That is the straight line. You are forced into an apocalyptic panic to produce.
But the work itself is repetitive, standardized, and cyclical. Every quarter resets. Every year repeats. That is the circle.
Exactly.
You are sprinting on the treadmill, but the treadmill is bolted to the floor of that gray, windowless room. It's the worst of both worlds. You have the heart-palpitating anxiety of time running out, combined with the soul-crushing depression of knowing you are getting absolutely nowhere.
The collision of these cages creates a unique modern paralysis. You feel the guilt of not moving fast enough on the line, while simultaneously feeling the crushing futility of pushing the wheel.
You're exhausted by the speed, but depressed by the lack of movement.
Yes, you're exhausted by the speed of your life, but depressed by its lack of actual movement. Time itself is the cage, and modern life has provided absolutely no escape hatch.
I want you, the person listening to this right now, to really look at your life. Think about the moment you opened your eyes this morning. Which cage did you wake up in today?
That's the real question.
Did you wake up with a jolt, your heart already pounding, terrified that you are falling behind? Did you immediately think about the emails you missed, the milestones you haven't hit, the fact that you are getting older and the clock is ticking down to an endpoint where you will be judged as a failure? Are you sprinting against the apocalypse?
Or did you wake up heavy?
Yeah. Did you lie there, staring at the ceiling, dreading the act of dragging yourself out from under the covers, already exhausted by the sheer predictability of the day ahead?
Dreading the commute.
Dreading the commute, dreading the fluorescent lights, dreading the bills, knowing that tomorrow will demand the exact same sacrifice for the exact same lack of reward. Are you suffocating in the loop?
Because these aren't abstract philosophical concepts for academics to debate.
No, not at all.
This isn't just a history lesson about ancient monks or industrial tycoons. This is your exact reality. Right now, today, you are experiencing the psychological horror of these mythologies every time you check your watch.
Every time you look at your bank account?
Every time you lie awake in the dark at 3 a.m., wondering what you are doing with your life. Time is the cage, and the bars are made of your own schedule.
But if we trace this back to the origins of these ancient ideas, it raises a very dark, lingering question, doesn't it? Because the original mythologies of the apocalypse and samsara were terrifying, yes, but they originally came with a vital caveat.
They did. The ancients didn't just design a prison. They designed an exit.
Wait, liberation. Because right now, neither the hustle nor the burnout feels like it has an exit door. How did the ancients escape the panic in the loop?
Through the spiritual dimension that we have entirely discarded. In the Western biblical tradition, the apocalypse was not just about fire and destruction. It was the necessary precursor to salvation. Heaven.
As permanent release.
Right. A permanent release from earthly struggle and a transition into eternal peace. The end of the line was not a drop into nothingness. It was a doorway.
Okay, and the East. How do you escape a circle that literally never ends?
Through enlightenment. The endless cycle of samsara was meant to be broken. By shedding worldly attachments and desires, one could achieve nirvana. And nirvana literally means blowing out or quenching the fires of desire.
So it's an exit from the wheel of suffering?
Exactly. A feat of perfect stillness outside of the circle entirely.
But modern society has completely boarded up those exit doors.
We have secularized the structures of time, but stripped away their salvations. We have kept the psychological horror of the ticking clock, the FOMO, the anxiety of the hustle, but we removed heaven.
And we kept the circle, too.
We kept the crushing weight of the eternal loop, the rat race, the daily burnout, but we removed nirvana. We are left with the mechanical trauma of these mythologies without any of the spiritual reward.
Just the trauma.
And so, as we navigate this modern existence, we must ask ourselves, in our relentless drive for progress and productivity, have we simply kept the cages and thrown away the key?
The clock is ticking, the wheel is turning, and you are still in the cage.